So now let's create a sample API file for post request in this API folder. But before that, we must have a folder for components. So let me create it. In this folder, let me make a file called input.tsx. And we have to paste the input here. So we have a function called input, which is a React functional component. It is accepting props like name, ID, type, and placeholder, and we are assigning the props to here in the input props, basic props. We also have a type here or interface called input, which has the name, ID, type, placeholder, and the onChange event. So in here, the name ID is optional because we are using optional chaining here. Now what we have to do is go to this Daisy UI library. So let's install this because it's the library for, we can reference our Tailwind class names from here. So we have to first install this. It's installing and it's done. Now it will not work if you check here. Let me first do an import in this index.tsx file of this input. So import input from this component, then return it in the main tag. Fine. So it's like this and it's not working. The class name is not working. That is why, that is because we have to do something here in the tailwind config.js file here. And that is, click how to use here. We have to import the plugin in the module.exports. So replace this with this and it will work now. See, we can see the text here and the styling. Now we have to pass these things, which is the name, ID, and all. So let me do this. So name will be email for now. Then we have placeholder. Enter your email. Then we have the ID as email. Then we have type as email as well. So we have passed these things. Let me also make this onChange as optional. If you add question mark after the type name, the error will go away. But we need one more input here. So let me add it here. And this will be called as password. Okay, name will be small p, password. And this will be enter your password. This also here also. Fine. We have the name and password with the types. So now what we have to do is remove this justify between class or make it as center to make them like this. Yes. Now it's fine. Fine then. Now we have to get data from the input fields. So create a function and we can just comment out the use effect hook for now. So create a function called handle inputs or handle input. So it will take an event or an event. Now this will be passed in the input component as well as onChange. So copy this and paste it here as well. Now the thing is we have some error here because we have to define the type of the event and it will be same like this. So just copy this event, React.change event HTML input element and add it here after a colon. Now we will have no errors. Fine. In here we can destructure this event.target. So and get the name and value from here. So let's say let name, then we have value equals to event.target. Now we need a state to set them. But before that, let me create a variable called let you equals to an object. In this we will have the key as name and then the value. Now I have to set this u, the local variable, in a state to append the previous value. I mean, if you console this u now and add the email, then the password will override the email. So we have to make sure that doesn't happen. We have to make sure that we get both of the items. So const say user, or maybe say input field, just input, set input. So use state, we will have an object like this. Now in this set input, it will take a previous value and then we can simply set the previous value. I mean, we can combine the previous value with this u, the current value. Now it's done, it's set inside. Now we can do yes, did I add a form here? Okay, we have to add a form here as well, which will encompass the input fields, or it will wrap the input fields, and the form will have an on submit event. In this we will have a function. When we click the button, and we will have a button, and when it is clicked, we will submit our form and send the data to the front end, I mean the back end. So handle submit an event like this. So assign this function to on submit here. This will also have an event, but we don't need it. Let me show you why. Suppose that we are consoling something called, or simply this data, which is simply a state called input. Okay, so let me check in the console. Open the console and add the name, I mean the email and some password. Okay, we need a button also. So add a button here, which will say submit. The type will be of submit only. Then let me get a button from here, a simple button like this, simple class name which is btn. Add it here and the button will change. Okay, the button is here. Maybe we have to wrap this in a div. Then let's see what happens. Now it's perfect. Also we can move the button inside in this div. Okay, that doesn't work. So the thing is, this is coming on the right. We have to change it. So maybe we can remove this property from this class name. Okay, not this. Flex column. What if we remove this? Item center. Justify center. Maybe align center also we need. No. Maybe we have to remove this P24 and see what happens. Okay, let me just leave it for now, because we are just focusing on the post request API, sample post API request. So we have the previous, and we have done all this fine. Now what we can do is, let me think, where was I? Yes, we have the input here. Let me just, we don't see any button. What happened to the button? Okay, let me leave it here. Now when we click the button, they should send some data in the console. Email, some password. The thing is, it is coming in the address bar at the top here. That we don't want to happen. So we want this function to receive a parameter called event. Then we can target event.prevent default to prevent it from happening. Prevent default what is event dot prevent default. But this event should also have a type, so we can just copy this and add it here. But the thing is, it will not work because it's not an input element. It is HTML form element. Now we will have no errors here now. Fine. Now this will not happen. So let me try. Add some password. Click submit. And okay, it's empty. This input. Why it is empty? Because we're not setting it here. Correct. So this on change, we have to get it here. Then simply do on change as on change in this input. Now let's try. Get fresh in email and the password. Now the email and the password is here. Perfect. Now we also need to create a API request here. Make a file called sample post.ts. Let me copy the contents of sample get and paste it here. But the sample get will be called as sample post API, and we have to export it here. You also don't need these things, and if you see that I have replaced the on snapshot function with this get docs. So that is because the on snapshot function is only for the client side. Okay. Not for the backend or the server side, because it will not work. Instead, we have get docs. So coming back to this file called sample post, we will have sample collection and all these things from this Firestore collection. We have sample, we don't have it here anymore. I have deleted it, but we will bring it back when we send a post request to the API call. So now what we have to do is, in this handle submit, we have to make a request here. We need to get the name and the email and the password from this. So let's select email req. Okay, it's a variable. So request dot body dot email. Let password equals to request dot body dot password. Simple Node.js stuff if you know it. Now let me create an object called user and have the email as email, then password as password. Fine. So it's done. So it will be an object, not an array. So we will change it something. So in this interface, let me make as a email as a string and password also a string. Password, correct. And that will be sent in the sample collection that will be created automatically. Now we have this user. We will need a function called add doc to add data to the Firestore collection. So add doc, add it here. This will take the collection reference called sample collection and the data, which is simply user. We also need to return the body in the networks tab when we call it. So let me come over to the sample get, copy this RDS status 200.json users and simply add it after the add doc. But users will be simply user like this. But the thing is, we have the type here as an array here, so we have to remove it. Just make a simple users. Fine. Now if you call this sample post request API call, let's see what happens. So simple as that. Okay, we don't need to close it. Let me copy await fetch this block of code, Also, the function should be asynchronous. Now, this will be sample post, not get. But we need to add a few extra things here. First is the method, which will be post. Then we need to add content type or headers. And in headers, we will have the content type. So let me check headers, or let me check post request in fetch API or using fetch API. I think this is it. Yes. Let me copy headers and paste it here. Content type as, wait a second. Await fetch this, I mean the URL. Okay, we don't need, what is the problem? It is post. Yes, now it's fine. What was the problem earlier? Okay, we need one more quote, closing quote. Now the data will be in the body. So give it a enter, and the data will be this user. I mean, sorry, input, not user. So this will come up here as request, which will be request.body.email, then the password, and then it will be inside this user object sent to the add-doc function in the Firestore and getting returned to us as a JSON in the networks tab. Now let me try this and see what happens. Open the network tab, give it a refresh first, clear the console. Let me add the email and the password. Click submit. Okay, some error we have here. Sample post. What is the error? Let me give it a check thoroughly. So we were having the input as stringify. Okay, maybe the thing is body.user, then body.user here also. So add doc will take sample collection, this and this user. Let me try again. Enter the email and some password. Click submit. Okay, still error we have. Internal server error. Localhost 3000. Sample post is this. What is the error here? It does not tell us. It tells us. Okay, the email in here is capital. Oh. So if you check in the sample, I mean the input, we are having all these items. Email. Okay, this should be small email. Now it will be fine, I guess. Give it a refresh. Add the email and the password, some password. And still error we have. Now what happened? Sample post. Let me check here. Maybe let's check now. Refresh it again. Yes, now it's working perfectly. We have the email and the password, and we have the response here. If you check the collection here, I mean in the Firestore, we will see this in the sample. See, email is here and the password. Perfect. So that's how we made a sample post request for our new stack that is unnamed yet as of now. What else we can do is this. We can create a folder called interface, and in the folder let me have this interface called users.ts. Just move this interface from here to here and it will work. Similarly, we have the sample get request. Here we have this users and we have the ID and sample field. So let me change the name from, so it's string, email and password. So say user post, or what we can do is just remove this from here. So this will be as let's say email doc, not doc.email, say data.email, then password data.password. Fine. Now also let me add the ID only also. So doc, what was that? Dog.id, correct. Copy this. Let me go forward, and doc is not defined. Okay, we have to also add the ID here, I guess, as a string. Now the error will be here, so maybe this ID should be optional. Give it a question mark. Yes. So now we have this users interface which contains this user ID, email and password. Now if you uncomment this block of code, we should get our users in the console. Give it a refresh and see. Here we have the email and ID and the password. One more thing I want to do here is, so we have the fetch data here getting called. We can clean up this use effect hook. So like this, copy the fetch data or cut it, paste it inside this cleanup function. Now we'll get it only once. But if we don't have it, if we have this, we will get it twice.